So you're going to run into equations where you're going to have stuff that you can't factor, right? You might have an equation like this one, like let's say like 0.2, well, let's use numbers. Like 2x plus 100x minus 3, right? There's going to be some instances where you just can't factor it, okay? And that's where we're going to use the quadratic equation, which is this right here, which is not that scary. It looks scary right now because a bunch of lines and stuff to it, but it's not that bad, okay? So when you can't factor something, you just use the quadratic equation to find your zeros. But there's also this, which is, like there's three types of parabolas that could exist. You could have a classic parabola that cuts through the line twice, whether like that or like that, right? You could have a parabola that just touches the line, okay? Like this or like this. Or I could have a parabola that never touches the line, right? In the sake of like not wasting time, what they've come up with is this thing called the discriminant right here. It's called the discriminant. It's this equation right here. And this is where you figure out if your parabola has two solutions, as in crosses the line twice. So if it crosses the line twice, your answer for this question is going to be bigger than 0. So it's going to be a positive number. A positive number. Okay? If it just touches it once, let's do this. So a positive number. If it just touches it once, like this one, the answer is going to be 0. And if it never touches it, it's going to be a negative number. Okay? So we're going to start with, actually we're going to do this for every question. We're just going to start doing discriminant first to figure out if it's solvable or not. Okay? So if we go over here, we're not going to worry about the quadratic equation yet. Okay? First thing we're going to do is we're going to do the discriminant to figure out if it has two answers, one answer, or no answers. How are we following along with what the discriminant does so far? You're like, yeah, I kind of understand. Like if it's positive, it's going to have two answers, as in it cuts through twice. If it equals 0, that means it's going to only touch once. And if it equals a negative number, that means it doesn't have any zeros, and I can't go any further. I can't factor it. I can't use the quadratic equation or anything like that. It's just unsolvable. Do you guys have an idea what I'm talking about right now? Yes, no? Maybe so? Yes? Okay. So, what we have to remember is quadratic equations are like the parent formula is ax squared plus bx plus c. So when I talk about a, b, and c here in the formula, that means a is the number that's in front of the x squared, so it's this number here. The b is a number that's in front of the x. So that's negative and 9. And then the c, let's go purple, is the constant at the end. Okay? So for this question, a equals 2, b equals negative 9, and the c value is 5. Do we understand where I got those answers? Where I got those numbers from? it is immensely critical that you can figure that out. Okay, so if you don't understand this part, you're going to be super duper lost later on. Okay, so who understands where, put a yes or a Y or an N in chat right now if you understand where I got the numbers from, or you want me to go over it again. It may seem like the simplest thing possible, but it's critical that we know that. All right, so the formula, like any quadratic has x squared, an x and a, an x squared, an x and a number. Okay? We're going to go through this a bunch of times. Okay? So you can see here 2x squared, negative 9x plus 5. The original formula here, like in terms of variables, is ax squared plus bx plus c. So like when we were doing perfect square, I talked about the a value, the b value a lot. So the a value is the number that's in front of the x squared. In this case, the number that's in front of the x squared is a 2. The b value is the number that's in front of the x, which in this case is a negative 9. And the c value is the number that's just a number, has no variable attached to it, which is the 5. Okay, let's do another one. I'm going to write down a equation here. Okay. I want you to tell me what my a value is, my b value is, and my c value is. Okay, don't write in chat right now. Give it a second. Okay? So everyone in chat right now can type, but do not press enter. You can do all three if you want. A equals this, B equals this, C equals this, or you can do one of them. Okay, I'll give you a minute. Okay, so on the count of 3, press enter. So 1, 2, 3, go. Press enter, and I want to see what everyone has. Good job, Gabe. That's right. Good. Remember, the letters don't go with it. It's just the numbers. Okay? I need to restart my computer. So you're right. This here -4 is that number. 10 is the B number, and -3. Perfect. Okay. That's the most key aspect. You need to know how to do that first. So first things first, let's run the discriminant to make sure that this has an answer. So the discriminant formula is b squared minus 4ac. Okay? So in this case, we're using the formula here to my left. That's -9 squared minus 4 times 2 times 5. Okay? So I just substituted in the values that we figured out over here into our equation using these numbers over here. And then we just plug this into our calculator. So -9 squared, oops, that's going to be bracket -9 squared, minus 4, bracket 2, bracket 5. Okay, so that's going to give me 41. Now, if I were doing this on a iPhone calculator, let me get that out. If I was doing this on an iPhone calculator, this is how I would do it. For that. I would do it in 2 steps. I would go bracket -9. Well, hopefully you realize the negative times the negative is going to be a positive. So you go -9 squared equals 81. And I'd write 81 in here. And minus, and I would go 4 times 2 times 5 equals 40. So I would do it in 2 steps. And I go 81 minus 40 equals 41. Now, since it's positive, does everyone understand how I got that answer? Yes, no? Okay. Dominic, what don't you understand, the calculation part or where these numbers all came from?
So I get where you got the 80 something. You just did 9 squared.
Yeah.
But where did you get the 80?
The 40, you mean?
Yeah, the 40 rather.
That's 4 times 2 times 5.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Okay. Now, that's a positive number. So if we go over our chart here, a positive number has 2 solutions. So that means we can go ahead and do our quadratic formula. Okay? If it had no solutions, if it came out negative, we can't go any further. So now, I'm going to pull this over here. So here's our quadratic formula. Okay? This is in your notes itself, but you might want to write this down, love it, give it a name, a nice name, be nice to it, okay? And go from there. So in order to work this, all we're going to do is we're going to put our numbers into our quadratic formula. And what's really cool here is you can notice how these 2 things, this here and this here, are the same. Okay? And the reason those are the same is if we came up with a negative, if we come up with a positive number here, we can get the square root of a positive number. If we get a negative number, we can't find the square root of a negative number, so that makes sure this doesn't work. Okay? And if we take the square root of a 0, we're just going to get 0, which means we're only going to get 1 answer. But if you do your discriminant before, you'll know the answer to that right away. Okay? So let's plug in all our numbers here. So negative b. So that's going to be negative bracket -9. Okay, so the negative stays in front, and we put whatever our b value in there. Now this plus or minus right here is going to come into effect later. Then we plug in our numbers, then we go -9 squared minus 4 times 2 times 9. All this divided by 2 times, in this case, 2. Okay. Do I have any questions how I plugged in all my numbers into that equation? Does anyone have any questions? So all I did was replace all my letters with the numbers that matched. Oh, C is supposed to be 5. Sorry, you're right. Yes, thank you, Logan. Would the b just be 9 because 2 9s? Yeah, you're one step ahead of me, Olivia. We're going to do that right now. Okay, so the next step here, we're going to do all the solving first. So this part here, you can pretend that's a -1. Negative times a negative equals a positive. So that means there's a positive 9 in front, plus minus. Now we already figured this out to be 41 over 4. Okay? We figured this out earlier to be 41. Does anyone have any questions so far? Does that seem... No questions? Good. Okay. Now here is where that plus and minus come in. Okay? Because I'm going to do this in 2 different colors. Plus in one color and minus in different color. Okay? Because let's go, I'm going to go over here for a second and just do a mind thing. What's the square root of 4? Can you give me the answer? Someone give me the square root of 4. What's also the square root of 4? No, 2 is the square root of 4. But what is also the square root of 4? No. -2 is, right? 2 squared equals 4. -2 squared also equals 4. You guys agree with me? So we don't know, like if I gave you the square root of 4, 2 could be the answer, but it could also be -2. Okay, that is why when we do the square root of 41 here, we have to do the positive version and the negative version. Okay? We don't know which is the answer we're looking for. But we have to kind of figure it out. So this is where when we get down to this point, you actually split your answer into 2 sections. A positive version and a negative version. So here I would go 9 plus, what's the square root of 41? Square root of 41 is 6.4. 9 plus 6.4 divided by 4. But I'd also have to go 9 minus 6.4 divided by 4. Do we have any questions about the split here? How we kind of split it up into 2? Because we have that plus and minus. And James, congrats on getting the -2 correct. I think you typed it in right before I wrote it in. And then we figure it out from there. Oops. This is going to be, what, 15.4 divided by 4? And this is going to be 2.6. 2.6 divided by 4. And you're going to get decimal place answers most of the time for these guys. Okay? 2.6 divided by 4 equals 0.65. And 15.4 divided by 4 equals 3.85. So there's my zeros. One zero is at 3.85. My other zero is at 0.65. No, Riley, we said 11. I even think I typed it in. Where is it up here? I'm just going, yeah. At 9:58, I typed in 11 a.m. We're going to go over it again. So let's double check this. What's my original equation? 2x minus 9 plus 5. So if I go here, I type in 2x squared minus 9x plus 5, right? You can see where it hits the x-axis is, what's that, 3.8 and 0.65? What was our answers? Our answers were 3.85 and 0.65. So pretty much bang on. Like there's a little bit of rounding in there, right? But exact same answers. So do I have any questions? The first time we went through the quadratic equation, how do we feel about it? Out of 5. I don't expect everyone to be at a 5 right now. Hopefully there's no like negatives, right? So first big thing, we identify A, B, and C, right? We can do the discriminant to figure out if there's answers, and then we just work it through. It's calculator work in a way, like you have to know where to put it. It's kind of a process work, okay? So let's do this one now. We'll practice through this one. I'm going to give you a minute to figure out what's your A value, what's your B value, and what's your C value. You can type it in chat, but don't type it in. And I'm very happy most people are at 3s. That's a good sign. Okay? So what's your A value for this equation? What's your B value for this equation? What's your C value? You can type it in chat, but don't press enter. Okay, press enter. Let me see your answers. What do we get here? This is the most important step. If you can't do this step, then all your answers are going to be wrong. Good, good. Sometimes the most basic things are the most important. Good. So my A value is 3, my B value is 7, and my C value is -4. Make sure you take those signs with them if they're positive or negative. Good. Now let's do the discriminant first. So our discriminant, if you remember, is b squared minus 4ac. I'm going to give you guys a minute. You're going to plug these numbers in here and find your answer. Okay? And you have to decide if it's a positive number, if it's a 0 number, or if it's a negative number. The number doesn't matter. I'm only looking to see if that number is positive, that number is 0, or the number is negative. Okay? So press D, put D in the chat if you're done and you have that number there. Okay? Dominic's done. I'll wait for another couple of people to finish up. I have a question for you. Would you like me to color code my numbers as I put them in? Yes or no? Yes? Okay. Can you guys see that blue okay? Or is it too light? It's good? Okay. All right, so as I go in here, it's going to be 7 squared minus minus 4 bracket 3 times negative 4. Good. And what's that equal? And it's important for these questions to be able to work the calculator. Whatever calculator you have to know how to use it. Did you guys get 97? How many people got 97 as their answer? Perfect. So that means there's two roots. There's two answers. Okay? So that means oh, what was your answer, Dominic? If you don't mind me asking. And what kind of calculator are you using?
I'm using the phone calculator. What I did was 7 squared is 49, right?
Yeah.
And then I did negative 4 times 3 times negative 4, and I got 52.
Yeah.
And then
that should be, but that would be positive 52.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'm supposed to add them together.
Let me see here. Does that make sense? It's 4 times 4 times 3. 4 times 4 times 3 equals 48. That number should be 48 somehow.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in B's negative, we always put brackets around it before we put a power to it. Okay, so watch here, Olivia. In my calculator here, if I write negative 9 squared, I get negative 81 in my calculator. Okay, because when you punch that in your calculator, your calculator is actually doing this. Negative 9 times 9, right? Negative 9 squared. So it considers the square just to be on the 9. Okay, and I'll get negative 81 for that answer. See that? Negative 9 squared, negative 81. Okay. Then this one, if you put in the brackets and square it, it'll come up as 81. Okay, because that's negative 9 times negative 9, which equals 81. Now, what I would suggest to you, Olivia, is a negative, like if you wrote negative 9 squared, that's going to be a positive. So just go 9 squared and write down 81, right? You kind of use your head to figure it out, but that's the math of why I always do that. Okay? Because those two aren't equal. Okay? So we have a positive number. That means it has two roots. So it's going to look like something like this. It's going to touch the line twice, or two zeros. So now that means we go back and do the quadratic formula. Now I'm going to give you a second to see if you can put the numbers in to your quadratic formula for me before I do. Okay? I want to see if you can get it in the right spot. Press D when you're all done that, so I kind of get a gauge of how people are doing. So I want you to write in the numbers into your quadratic formula.
There was nothing that you could not do.
From executive producers LeBron James and Maverick.
Okay, is everybody done writing those numbers into the quadratic formula?
Why are you getting Space Jam ads on the computer?
Oh no, it's not a Space Jam ad, is it?
Yeah, because it was like a movie with LeBron James in it, right? So it had to be Space Jam.
I was reading a no, it's actually a documentary. Dreamland on CNN. I'm reading a CNN article.
Dominic loves that.
What, CNN?
Yeah, we used to call
You
him
bet.
because he would come to school every day with some news story from CNN.
That is not true.
Yeah, he would.
It's good to be educated. Gabe, are you done writing the numbers in?
No.
All right. So I'm going to write the numbers in here. So first things here first. You should have negative 7. Oops. Then I'm going to go plus minus the square root of b squared. So 7 squared minus 4. We have a here, which is 3. And we have negative 4, all divided by 2 bracket 3. Okay. How did we do in typing in and getting all those numbers in? What should we do here? Put a yes in chat if you got it all right. Put an S in chat if you got some of them right. And put an N in chat if you got none of the numbers in the right spot. Good. Good. So it's just about putting them in the right spot and then working from there. Okay, good. Now let's figure out our answers here so far. So a negative times a positive is going to create a negative number out front. And we still have our plus minus, which we're going to deal with in a little bit. Now the nice thing is this inside part's already done. We did it into discriminant up here. So we know that's 97. Divided by 2 times 3 is 6. So we're done that step there. Oops. Now here's where our split comes. Okay. We're going to have a positive split this side, and we're going to have a negative split this side. Okay, I just color code them so it makes it a little bit easier to see. So we have negative 7, and this time it's going to be plus the square root of 97. Which is 9.8. Divided by 6. On this side, we're going to have negative 7 minus the square root of 97, which is 9.8, divided by 6. How are we doing with the split? Do we understand the split and why I'm doing it? Yes or no? Okay, we're understanding the split? Okay. I really like having all these colors, so I think it helps you guys see it. So this over here is going to equal 2.8 divided by 6, which is going to be 0.47. And this side here is going to be negative 16.8 divided by 6, which equals negative 2.8. So my zeros, oops, are 0.47 and negative 2.8. How do we feel right now about that? How do we feel about quadratic equations second time around? Type your number in this time, out of 5. We had a lot of 3s last time and maybe 1 4. So we're moving up a little bit, hopefully. Good. Right. So now, let's work with a big bad one. So I'm going to do the same thing I did this morning, where I'll let you guys kind of work ahead a little bit. Then I'll keep catching up to you. So first things first, let's figure out our A, our B, and our C values, okay? Because if you look at this, I don't know if, is anyone able to factor that really quick in their heads? Probably not, right? So when you're done your A, B, and C value, type them in the chat. In about a minute, I'll ask you to press enter. All right, on the count of 3, press enter. And what numbers did we get for our A, B, and C values? Anyone? Bueller? Bueller?
I can do. Okay, so Dominic just got it right. Okay, never mind.
Gabe, your mic's on.
Yeah, I just said that I could do it, but Dominic got it right. So.
Oh, Dominic got it right?
Yeah.
All right. 790 and minus 1,000. Perfect. Now let's work with our discriminant, which is negative b. Is it? One second here. It's not negative b. It's b squared. B squared minus 4ac. Okay? I want you to work through this, and when you have the answer, all we're looking for, if you remember, is the answer positive, is the answer 0, or is the answer negative? Okay, if it's positive, you have 2 answers, so it looks like this. If it's 0, you have 1 answer, so it kind of looks like this. If it's negative, you have no answers. So it looks something like this, or like this, so it doesn't touch. So you can't go any further. So when you have that done, put D in the chat to say that you're done, and I'll start working through it as well.
Mr. O, I know that a negative times a negative equals a positive, but what about a negative times a negative times a negative?
That's going to equal a negative then.
Okay.
What am I doing here? So we got a positive number, right? Oops, one too many zeros. So that positive number means we have two roots. Okay? Does that make sense to everyone so far? Okay. Then we just have to go through and plug everything into our quadratic equation. Okay? I'll give you a minute to get started before I catch up. Okay? All right, press D in chat right now if you've got this filled in, this equation filled in. Okay. Let me fill it in here then. This is negative 790. And this is 790 in here. This is A, so that's negative 60. This is negative 1000. And this here is negative 60. All right, how do we do with that, everybody? We're comfortable there? Good. So this up here, negative times a positive is going to be negative 790. Then we're going to have the plus minus again. Now luckily we're already done that. Numbers up there. 384 comma 1000 over negative 120. And this is where we do our split. This is the positive side, and this is the negative side. And I want you to start filling that out, okay? Pick one side for me and try to do one side for me, okay? And let's see if we get the same answer.
Is that 3841001 one number?
Yep.
Okay.
That's our number we got from the discriminant up top, right? And the discriminant, this formula here, like a discriminant formula, is also the inside of the bracket here. So whatever we get for the discriminant, we can just bring it down into this section right here. Does that make sense, Dominic?
Yeah.
I'm just going to use whole numbers. So here's the question. Whichever side you picked, did you get it right? Or do you see your little error that you made? So how do we feel now about the quadratic equation? Quadratic form of quadratic equation. Out of 5, how do we feel? Besides everyone being extremely hungry right now. Good. So your homework will go down. Let's go through this real quick. We'll go through, where's our notes to self real quick. So if we write in our notes to self here, I'll write it in here. For the discriminant, no intercepts, right? we have a negative answer. So note it's going to be a negative answer. One intercept will be 0 for the answer. And two intercepts will be a positive answer. Does that make sense to everyone? So if you get a negative intercept, you get no x-intercepts. If you get a positive, if you get a 0 for an answer, you have 1 intercept. And you get a positive answer, you're going to have 2 intercepts. Okay? Then, if we look at our homework here real quick, the first couple of questions are about discriminant. So for this discriminant right here, is that going to be, would that parabola, that equation, have a positive, negative, or 0 as the answer for discriminant? A positive, negative, or a 0? Looking at that graph right there. Positive, good. How about this one? Positive, negative, or 0? Here's that parabola. A positive, negative, or a 0? Good. Not a 0. This would be an example. C would be an example of one that has a 0. Because how many times does it touch? Only at one spot. Okay? That'd be a 0, 1 there, that one. Then you have let's take away this question. You guys don't do question 2. Okay? Oh, did it? I was wondering what you guys were doing. Don't do question 2. You can skip that question. But here's some practice ones to do for quadratic formula. If you get 4 in a row correct, you can stop. Okay? And then there's, don't do the word question today. Just do those ones. You're going to get 4 in a row right. Okay? Is Riley there? 1 p.m. 1 p.m. come back. Okay? That's what time we're coming back at.
So, Mr. O, what are the questions that we don't do?
Don't do these ones here, the determine the real roots. Okay?
Okay.
What I want you to do with these ones, do the exact same thing we did before. Take the discriminant first, and then find your roots. And if you can get 4 in a row correct, you're good to go.
So, if we get 4 in a row correct, we don't need to do the rest in that question.
If you can do 4 in a row and get them all correct, you must know what you're doing.
Okay.
Does that make sense? You can do them all if you need to feel comfortable. What I'm saying is like 4 or 5 in a row will show you know what you're doing. That's in a row, right?
Got it.
Got it?